Okay, I thought I'd do, for the sake of balance, the flip side of the video you hopefully just seen, and that's the problems of the levers and the leave movement, which I have noticed over the years. And again, declaration of bias here, I am a lever. So yeah, I'll jump right in. This is all with hindsight, but again, we'll take it or leave it. The main problem I think that the levers had is that we genuinely believed that if we could break the back of the Europhile movement within the UK by leaving, that it would change the philosophies of the political class within the UK away from this liberal globalist, almost utopianist worldview. No, it didn't do that at all. They didn't change at all. And this, I think, was probably one of the big gambles, is that we thought the political class would be confronted with such an overwhelmingly crushing defeat. Their pride and joy, the fact that they had converted the UK into the perfect German vassal state, the perfect servile outpost of the new civilization, the grand, the Pax Europa, Pax Germania, whatever you want to call it. And if we thought that we could destroy that prospect for them, they would wake up and join us. What happened is they just went deeper into their own childish 1990s, 20th century fantasies. And they generated all manner of desperate conspiracy theories to protect them from the reality of their failures. Oh, it was all a Russian plot. Oh, it was all a Jewish plot. Oh, it was all a nationalistic spasm. Oh, it was the Gammons. They did it. It was every single. It was all due to austerity. Every single coping method they used. They didn't reform. They didn't change. They didn't adapt. And this is something I said in the earlier video. They didn't adapt at all. They just went deeper and deeper into their delusions. And I'm sorry, you Remainers and Rejoiners, and I do love you, but it is delusional. If you seriously think you can unite Europe, where countless empires and kings and alliances have all failed previously, if you think you can achieve that, then you are delusional, because there have been far more successful attempts at unifying the continent than you guys, by people and organizations that knew what they were doing, serious people, and they failed. So what chance does the EU have? A bunch of frightened old German men. You're going to best the mercantile warrior elites of old. No. So what am I talking about? Yeah. So we thought that the British political class would be forced to realign itself, reorganize itself by being confronted by this failure, similar to the way that countries undergo sort of internal revolutions when confronted by other failures. I mean, I'm a bit reluctant to say Germany, because there's a lot of evidence that the German elite didn't learn the lessons of the Second World War. They just put the tanks away and went into business, but that's another story. Would be a good historical. The Spanish defeat in the Spanish-American War, I think of the late 19th century, that caused a revolution in Spain, a relatively peaceful revolution. But an old European power was beaten with relative ease by an upstart bunch of breakaway colonists. And that really shocked the Spanish elite, because they realized, wow, we're not an imperial power anymore if we can't defend our assets. So it was a reasonable gamble, but it was a gamble, and like all gambles, it eventually lost. So we thought that the British political class would learn and adapt But they didn't. They're just singing the same old song. And the British political elite, they honestly believe if they can just put us back into the EU, then everything will go back to the way it was. It'll just be a bad dream. No. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, I think, is that we didn't understand, we do now, but we didn't understand where the primary resistance to Brexit would come from. The primary resistance to Brexit did not come from idiots in the streets with placards, okay? It came from a relatively small group of civil servants running out of Whitehall, predominantly the Cabinet Office. The reason why we know this is because these were the people advising our glorious elected ministers about how to undertake Brexit. For example, Theresa May's leaving deal was not written by Theresa May, it was written by civil servants. Europhile, globalist, progressive, liberal, people who got their degrees in the 90s, so they're a product of the 90s university establishment, people who genuinely read The Guardian and haven't worked out its satire. Those people, hardcore Remainers, were essentially pulling the wheels with regards to the leaving process. So it was doomed to begin with. And again, a lot of ministers, they're trained not to think. They're trained just to sign things. So that was a major problem. Handing over the Brexit process to the people who are desperate. They shriek and scream to rejoin the Germans. Please. And they've probably been offered all manner of lucrative consultant positions by the EU that they think we don't know about. But you're asking your political enemies to do your work for you. And that's one of the main reasons why not the current cabinet secretary, the previous one, I can't remember his name, Sidwell, he was chased out. Was it 2020 rather? So not realising that the primary practical resistance for Brexit didn't come from the media, didn't come from Corbyn, didn't come from idiots with placards who don't know a damn thing about the EU. It came from very powerful, essentially almost untouchable, technocratic, bureaucratic mandarins who run Whitehall, and with it the whole bloody country. Because they're the engineers pulling all the levers that control all our various public institutions. And that's well documented. Just Google it. Civil servants sabotaging Brexit. We all know about it. So that's number two. We didn't know where the main resistance would come from. The other thing I think is that we will, and this kind of leads on from the bureaucrats, the Europhile bureaucrats that have infiltrated our system, is that we really took our time. It should have been done quick. We should have had the treaty and the legislation ready to go. Signed. Just sign here. Not spend months and months drafting the thing. And again, this was because the people running the state, the Mandarin class, they didn't prepare for this because they didn't want it to happen, and they didn't think it was going to happen. It really should have been done very quickly. A quick severing to deny and remove all of the social and economic uncertainty. Some things would have had to have taken and to have been phased out and phased in and whatnot, but it should have been done quickly. So a lack of speed, and that allowed our enemies to fall back, regroup, reorganize, and try again. And their main strategy at the moment, I think, is just to wait for a Conservative government to fail, bring in the worst Labour government in history, doesn't matter who runs it, with the primary task of taking the UK back into the EU. That's their objective. Just sit by the river long enough and the corpse of your enemy will drift by. And that's basically all they've got left, because they've tried everything else. So our belief or our lack of implementing the short, sharp shock leave method. So that's number 3. Number 4. We kind of believed that the EU, which is nothing more than a glove with a German hand in it, would leave us alone. That the EU itself would respect the sovereign wishes of the people of one of its member states. No, we're too valuable a prize and we're too dangerous an enemy. I've said it for years, and other people say it, the Germans will not tolerate the existence of a major economically viable state on their doorstep that they don't control. They can't do it. They can't do it. The EU just cannot conceive of that. It has to be controlled. They're not going to leave us alone. And we've seen the maliciousness of the EU. Oh, we're going to have to impose this tax. Oh, we're going to have to impose this tariff on you. Oh, we're going to have to deny citizenship to people. Just the maliciousness of it. And they've tried to break up the union. Haven't they? They've said, well, yeah, you can leave, but we're keeping Northern Ireland. Yeah, you can leave, but we're keeping Scotland. Yeah, you can leave, but we're going to have London. Yeah, they've tried it all. The naked, petty maliciousness of the EU. Because they don't want us to leave. Because they need us. Okay? The EU could have survived the loss of say, an Eastern European member like Poland, or Hungary, or dare I say, someone like Spain. Could not tolerate the loss of one of its founding vassals. And this is what I said, is that we need to be proactive in counterattacking the EU. They are never going to accept the fact that we left. They can't do it. They cannot accept that people would leave paradise. So the EU is going to be a hostile, bad faith, bad actor. We need to defend ourselves from this. We need to not be aggressive or, bomb Berlin all over again or any nonsense like that, but to have a resolute understanding of the new relationship. These people are no longer our friends. They are too weak and too timid to understand that it's nothing personal. They are going, because their ideologies are so weak that they have to demonize us, and that means we got to be firm. Oh, if you threaten us, we're going to threaten you, sunshine. And this actually worked, funnily enough, with the Americans when Trump was trying to renegotiate treaty tariffs with the EU, because basically EU goods coming into the US hardly had to pay anything, but American goods going into the EU had to pay a lot. And Trump was saying, that's not fair. Let us have no tariffs or equal tariffs. And if you're not going to change your tariffs, I'm going to change my tariffs to equal with yours. That's basically what Trump protectionism was all about. The EU members despair. How dare he? Yeah, it's terrible. And then they realized that he was serious. He wasn't going to fold. And I don't know if the treaty, I think it probably stalled or fell apart, but they came to heel. They came to heel when they realized that he was out of their control, that they were not in control of the situation. And they had to behave like adults and come to the table and start to negotiate. That is the kind of leadership we needed to see in the UK. If we're going to deal with the EU from now on, we cannot be nicey and polite. They don't understand these concepts. It's all force and thuggery with the Germans. Okay? And I'm talking about the German elite, not the normal Germans, the German elite. They've got the most aggressive corporate culture in the world, people, and they put that into their politics. So we had to be not aggressive but firm. Put the red lines down, and if they screw with us, okay, two can play that game, sunshine, and be forceful, because they weren't going to respect anything in any other way. They could not communicate with the UK through any other way other than this kind of dynamic pressure. But no, we thought they were reasonable and sensible and nice. No. So what's that? 0.4, 0.5? I can't remember what it is. The other failings of the Leave movement. I think that's the bulk of them. What have I spoken about? We've said that. I'll pause for a minute. getting back, I've cleared my head a bit. Another failure of the League things, the failure to aggressively persecute and prosecute the disgusting lies that we are all Russian spies. These are very, very serious accusations because you're accusing us of the crimes of espionage and treason. There are still simple-minded simpletons who think that the whole Brexit thing was orchestrated by Putin. Now, I could go into all the reasons why they're wrong, but it's too late in the day. I think it's just funnier just to call them idiots, because they are. Because all I have to do is say, where's your evidence? And they say, oh, well, but we don't need evidence. We just need supposition. No, you need evidence, sunshine, if you're going to accuse people. Just look at the Carol Cadwallan case. The stupidest woman in media, product of The Guardian, no less. So, what do we expect? She was given ample opportunity to apologise, to retract, to say that Aaron Banks is not a GU or an FSB agent. No, couldn't do it. She couldn't even grasp the fact that she'd been had. And Aaron Banks and his team just let her destroy herself for years. But the point is, it should have been, because there's loads of other people that are they're accusing Boris Johnson of of all the problems we've had with him, of being a Russian spy, because he played fucking tennis with the son of a retired Russian intelligence officer once. Wow, that's conclusive. That'll stand up in a Crown Court. So there should have been a major cashing in of libel and slander cases, and relieving many prominent Remainers of their excessive burdens of cash by taking them to court and allowing them to demonstrate to the world that they don't even understand their accusations of espionage, let alone how to defend them. So I think there should have been a cottage industry. And I'm surprised the legal industry didn't pick this up, because they could have made a fortune. Because I've been accused of being a Russian spy. You heard it here first, folks. So that the failure to really capitalize on the endemic stupidity of the Remainers to make very serious accusations with very heavy penalties and not clean them out. Bang. The other one is a failure to deinstitutionalize the EU bias within our institutions. So the BBC, for example, totally Germanophile, totally German supremacist. Just look at them. They're more pro-German than the bloody EU is. Good God. And this kind of bias, there's nothing wrong with being biased, but you've got to know you're being biased, and you can't let it interfere with your professional duties. So, but they're supposed to be impartial, and they're not. Same with Channel 4. They should have had the bias thrown out from them. And also our educational establishments. You cannot teach the kids. You cannot teach the kids that the German hegemony is all wonderful and was all made by a bunch of liberals in the 60s and all this kind of. The lies I've heard from professional educators about the EU are just staggering, and it goes back to us in the earlier video about the ignorance of the Remainers. So for example, half of the founding fathers of the European Union in the 50s have very interesting CVs. Very interesting CVs between the years of 1939 and 1945. I'll give you a clue. They weren't playing golf. So I say to this, person, you're convinced that these people are morally competent, and yet their CV would say otherwise. How do you equate for this contradiction? Nothing. So the de-Germanification of EU, whatever, Germany, EU, same thing. Of our various institutions, that should be neutral. Anything else? Gone for 20 minutes. Other problems that the Leavers have? I think it's ultimately a failure to understand that the rejoiners, the serious rejoining movement, is run by a small group of bureaucrats, but the rejoiner movement is a business. Okay, it's a business. It's about money. These pro EU papers, when they sell stories, it's about money. When you understand it that way, if you can de-incentivize the profit making from promoting the sad failed German gambit from the 50s, I think it would collapse. The rejoiners are a business, okay? Deal with them like a business. They're selling a product. So there. That's what I think we've screwed up. So just to summarize, what was it? We thought the political class would learn from its mistakes. No. I can't remember. I can't remember the order. Go back and check it.